Hello and welcome to Fully Express with me, Aisha Hilton. And today we're talking about the pleasure off switch and how we surrendered our pleasure one I'm fine at a time, and why no bubble bath alone can turn it back on. Everyone's talking about how to reclaim your pleasure right now. And it might not be coming up in your feed, but it's definitely coming up in my feed and in the emails that I subscribe to. And yet almost nobody is asking, who convinced us to surrender it? Why did we turn our pleasure off? So let me ask you a question before we go any further. And I'd love you to answer this honestly. Not the answer you give when you're having a coffee with your girlfriends, but the real one. So when was the last time you felt pleasure, real pleasure, not relief, not distraction, not the exhale when everyone's finally in bed and the house is quiet and you get some time alone? Real pleasure, the kind you feel in your body and it's all juicy and you feel alive, the kind that makes you close your eyes for a second in bliss just to savor it. And if you had to stop and think about it, this episode is especially for you. So I'm very excited to have you with me today and to talk about pleasure. And you might see it everywhere with pleasure audits, pleasure resets, soft life, romanticizing your morning. There are influencers building entire brands on this and telling us how midlife women need to reclaim our pleasure. And at the exact same time, there's a backlash, people rolling their eyes and saying it's all performative, that joy is resistance has become a caption under a photo of someone's martini. And that soft life is just another thing women are performing instead of feeling. And here's the thing, I think both camps are right and wrong at the same time. They're both arguing about the behavior, what we do, what we buy, what we post, but nobody's really talking about the switch, the one inside of us, the one that got turned off so long ago that we can do every pleasure practice on the internet and on the planet and still feel not much and feel numb. So that's what today is about, not how to add pleasure to our lives. You know how to do that. But why we turned off our pleasure switch, and because we didn't just lose our pleasure, somewhere along the way we decided it wasn't safe, and no bubble bath, as much as I love them, overrides that decision. We don't wake up one morning and decide to stop feeling, and nobody flicks the switch off in one go. It's more like a dimmer switch. We turn it down click by click slowly, and we never notice that the room that we're in within our lives is getting darker. So for example, click, we're 7, we're too loud, we're too much, we're told to settle down and be a good girl. Click, we're 15, we learn our bodies are something other people have opinions about, that they exist to be looked at, judged, managed, and disciplined. Click, we're 30, something, and our wants go last, after the kids, after the partner, after work. We might eat standing up, or we might give ourselves I know I've done this, the worst fried egg at breakfast, the one that doesn't look very good. And we can't remember the last thing we did purely because it felt good. And we've been made to feel guilty for wanting things that feel good. And click, again, we're in midlife and someone asks, how are we? And we say, I'm fine, because we say it before they've even half asked the question. And the wild thing is we believe it, because fine is what it feels like when the dimmer's been down for so long and we've forgotten there was ever more light in the room. We've just gotten used to it, and our bodies and our psyche have got acclimated to it. So nobody's out there stealing our pleasure. We somehow surrender it one I'm fine at a time. And for me, I can tell you the exact moment I became really conscious of my own dimmer. It was almost 10 years ago, nearly to the day actually. I was standing in my kitchen late at night and the house is really quiet. My 2 children were tucked up in bed and I was alone at the kitchen bench when this one thought rose out of nowhere. It was so strong and I had tears in my eyes, and I thought, all I want is some tenderness. I long for that moment where someone would kiss me gently on the forehead and hold me lovingly and tenderly. And I don't know if you can relate to it, but that soft, gentle kiss on your forehead, oh my God, it just melts me. I was quite shut down in my marriage, both physically and emotionally, and I was afraid to leave, especially because I had young children to care and support. I was in my early 40s. I had my last child quite late in life, and I was standing there in the dark, and I remember thinking, Is this what the rest of my life is going to be like? I feel teary as I say it, because I didn't want that for my life. And I thought, deep in my bones, I was like, I can't bear it. I can't live the rest of my life the way that I was living. And I'd been so focused on everyone else's needs for so long, being the supportive wife, breastfeeding my babies, raising these two gorgeous young humans. And somewhere along the way, I'd stopped feeling the joy and pleasure of my own life and focusing on what lit me up. And I was just going through the motions. And it wasn't that I didn't have those moments of joy, when my son walked for the first time, or I would tickle him and he would laugh delightfully. And that memory still comes up on Facebook and brings me joy every time when I filmed it and popped it on Facebook. But when I look back at the woman that I was standing at that kitchen bench, I can see now that my numbness wasn't a malfunction. It wasn't even burnout exactly, though I was very tired. And it definitely wasn't a hormone problem in itself, though heaven knows we get told everything in midlife is hormones. And, they do have a big impact on us. But it was something much older and much smarter than that. And here's what I've come to understand through my own healing and through years of sitting women in this exact territory. The pleasure switch doesn't live in our calendars. It doesn't live in our habits. It lives in our subconscious, in beliefs that got installed so early we've never even heard them spoken out loud. Beliefs like my pleasure costs someone else something. Rest has to be earned. Like, we've got this big focus on being productive. And I dated someone before my current relationship, and he was always on about me being productive. And I said, actually, my true value comes from my presence, from me being myself in the world. And he was always going on about it. It used to actually really annoy me. Anyway, other beliefs like, if I feel too much, I'll be too much. And as the crier and emotional one in my family of origin, I felt the pressure of that. And good women give, they don't take. And wanting things is dangerous or selfish. And I want to tell you something that happened to me recently, because it showed me just how deep this conditioning still runs. I was at the funeral of the most lovely, gorgeous young woman, a mother of very young children, taken far too early by cancer. And as person after person stood up to speak about her and share beautiful thoughts and memories about her, the same two phrases kept coming back over and over. And they were, she never said a bad word about anyone. She always puts the needs of others first. Or she always put the needs of others first, because, and that was the thing of everything this woman was, her whole life, her whole self. The quality that people reach for, the one they most treasured about her, was her selflessness. And I sat there with this quiet fury rising in me, because even now in the 21st century, the highest compliment we can apparently pay a woman is that she asked for nothing and that she put herself last and cared about everyone else. And I want to be clear, this is not a criticism of her or the people who loved her. It's the water we're all swimming in, right? But if selflessness is what we're praised for in death, is it any wonder we practice it in life? Or at least pretend to practice it, Is it any wonder that the beliefs go in so early into us as young girls and so deep? Now, I want to be truly gentle here, because this is part of where we're starting blaming ourselves. And that is the opposite of what I want us to do. We didn't choose those beliefs. A little girl chose them, a little girl in each of us. And she was brilliant to do it. Turning the feeling down was how she stayed safe, stayed loved, and stayed acceptable in the family she was in the world she was in. And numbness wasn't a flaw, it was a survival strategy, and it worked. And it's just that it's still running 40, 50 years later. That same program is running our Saturday afternoons. It's the reason we can be standing in the most beautiful place with people we love and feel like we're watching it all through glass. And sometimes it might be dirty glass. And I'll say the quiet part out loud. The world has never minded women being numb. A woman disconnected from her own pleasure is a woman who'll keep giving without asking for what she wants, And whole systems run on that. There's an author called Audre Lorde. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Audre, Lorde. And she was writing about this 50 years ago, that our aliveness, our capacity to feel deeply, is a source of power, which is exactly why we're trained out of it. When we start feeling again, we start demanding that our lives actually feel like something. And that's inconvenient for everyone except us. Well, might even be inconvenient for us because people might not like it when we go for what we want. So this is the reframe I want us to take from today. We don't have a pleasure problem. We have a permission wound. And we cannot heal a permission wound without a product. Well, with a product, sorry, we can't matcha or cacao ceremony our way over the top of a belief that says feeling isn't safe, which brings me to what most of us are doing instead. Because when the real thing is switched off, we don't just go without, we reach for counterfeits. There are two big ones. The first is perform pleasure. The rest that's arranged for a photo, the self-care Sunday that somehow feels like another job. I'm sure you know what I mean. We're not resting, we're proving that we rest. And our nervous system knows the difference, even when our Instagram feed doesn't. The second is the dopamine snack. The scroll, the third coffee, the wine at 5, the online cart. None of these are sins, hear me. We all do them. But they're not pleasure. They're busy. They keep us busy and they keep us numb. And they're really just sedation dressed up as a treat. Pleasure asks us to be in our bodies, not in our minds, not on our phones. And we're mostly using these dopamine snacks and sedations treats as a way of leaving our body. So here's the test, and it's the only one we need. After, not during, but after we do these sedation activities or dopamine snacks, do we feel more here or less here? More in our bodies or less in our bodies? Real pleasure leaves us more present, more in our skin, more ourselves. The counterfeit ones leave us slightly foggier than before we started snacking on them. And I'll be honest, I'm still learning about pleasure, but it has become one of my highest values now, right along there with family, beauty, and freedom. I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy my body. And I was absolutely one of those women who looked like they knew about pleasure and did pleasurable things. I'd have massages. I love a bubble bath. Give me a bubble bath and Netflix. And it's heavenly for me. But did I actually allow myself the full experience of the pleasure? Often no. My mind would get busy right in the middle of it, running lists, replaying conversations with friends or family. And I'd come out the other side of this supposedly pleasurable experience having barely been there for any of it. And we've all done things like drive home from an appointment or something, and we don't know how we got home, but we got home safely, thankfully. But it's that autopilot type of thing, right? So these days it's different. When I get to one of those beautiful calf and foot massages that come with a good pedicure, you know the ones, I hope, I don't reach for my phone, and I definitely notice other people going on their phones when they have someone giving them this gorgeous massage on your feet and your calves, and I'm like, just surrender to it fully. I close my eyes and I just really experience it. And I've noticed because I really love it, they tend to give me longer foot and calf massages now. So that's really nice. And when you surrender it to it, it's the same pedicure that the woman next to me is having, right? But I'm having a completely different experience of it because I'm actually in the now and I'm surrendering to the touch that someone is giving me. And I want you to notice that none of this makes us frauds. You know, if like me loving my bubble baths but not being fully present, it doesn't make me a fraud. It just makes me a woman with a dimmed switch doing my best to feel something through the glass. And the counterfeit isn't the disease. It's just a symptom. So, you know, I'm just learning like the rest of us. But how do we turn our pleasure switch back on? And I promise this isn't the part where I hand us all a 7-step morning routine. We have enough protocols. This is simpler and deeper and slower, and there's 3 movements to it. So first, name the decision. Somewhere in our history, a younger us decided feeling wasn't safe. Find her. The question I give the women I work with is this: when did I learn that my pleasure was a problem? I feel teary when I ask that right now because so many of us did this we all did it subconsciously. We learnt that our pleasure was a problem. And this could even be in sex where, you know, so many women, our first sexual experiences, I don't know about you, but we're like, oh, I was saving my virginity for this. So ask yourself, when did I learn that my pleasure was a problem? Don't force it, just ask it and let the body answer over the next few days. You may not have a memory that surfaces, I didn't, but I feel it in my body that, I was quite young and that I feel the sadness around the decision I made that my pleasure was a problem. But if a memory surfaces, it will probably surprise you. It's often not a very dramatic thing. It's something small, but it sears into us, like we're branded. Secondly, change it at the level it lives, because insight alone doesn't move the subconscious. We can understand our permission wound perfectly and still not feel the sun on our skin. So we have this belief, and we want to rewrite it where it's stored. The old, my pleasure costs someone something, replaced with what's actually true for women we are now. It's safe for me to feel good. My pleasure nourishes the people I love. There is nothing I have to finish first. This is deep work, and it's exactly where we're going next. I'm going to create in this next episode of this podcast and Substack post, I'm going to I've already created it. It's a pleasure switch meditation. It's a bit of a tongue scramble. And it's a guided practice for beginning to rewire those beliefs right at the level that they live. And we'll do it together inside the next episode. And for those who want to keep it, it'll be waiting on Substack as a standalone recording, free for anyone who's subscribed on Substack. And then the third thing that we can do is resensitize the body. Once permission exists and we feel safe to experience pleasure, the body needs practice receiving, and it needs to be small to start off. And I'll tell you what it looked like for me. During the COVID lockdowns, I started a little organic tea business called Tea Bliss. And truthfully, it was never really about the tea. It was about creating a ritual of pleasure around the simplest act in my day. These days, I have gorgeous cups and saucers and teapots, and my daily ritual is sacred. Sitting down, tasting it, doing nothing else. 90 seconds of being completely in my body once a day, sipping my tea. And that's the scale I want us to start at. 90 seconds, 1 sense, the sun on our forearms. It's winter here in Australia and it's been very gloomy for the last couple of weeks with lots of rain. And today the sun came out and I actually took myself out on a date and had a 9-spice chai latte sitting in the sun that was streaming through one of my favorite cafes. And I was just completely blissed out by the fact that the sun was out. The tea was great as usual, but oh my gosh, the sun on my skin. And this isn't complicated, right? And I tasted the tea and it was so beautiful. And so I invite you to ask yourself a question now. What do I want right now? And listen for the smallest, truest answer and do that. And here's why this all matters, right? For everything else we talk about on Fully Expressed. Pleasure is not the reward we get after we become fully expressed. It's the fuel. A woman who can feel is a woman who can want. And a woman who can want is a woman who can speak, write, create, ask, and build. It's the juiciness, it's the creative life force that allows us to bring into fruition the things that we dream of creating. So every fully expressed life I've ever witnessed started with a woman coming back into her own body. This is the ground floor, people. And because we think about what pleasure is for a moment, pleasure is the body saying yes. And every single thing we have ever created began as a yes. And desire is the seed of creation. The podcasts you might be wanting to start, the book that taps you on the shoulder at 2 a.m, the oracle deck, the garden, the business, the painting, whatever it is that you want to create, it all begins with a want, as pleasure imagine. So a woman who has switched off her capacity to feel pleasure has actually switched off the very frequency her creativity broadcasts on and feeds on. We can't hear the book through the numbness. We can't feel the pull of the work we came here to do as clearly as we could if we were, turned on to life. This is why I say we can't live a fully expressed life without pleasure. Not shouldn't, but can't. Full expression is pleasure moving through us and out into the world. They aren't two separate objects, they're the same river. And in daily life, this is rarely the grand thing. It's wearing the good perfume on an ordinary Tuesday. It's cooking dinner with music on instead of resentment. It's choosing the beautiful cup. I love beautiful crockery. And stepping outside to feel the cold morning air on our face before anyone else wakes up. Writing one paragraph purely because it wants to be written. Flowers on the desk we work at. I have this for myself. I love flowers and buy them for myself. And I really love it when my partner or friends give them to me too. And also saying no to the things that dim us and yes to the things that light us up in 100 tiny domestic ways every single day. Pleasure is a practice of attention. That is what living fully expressed looks like on an ordinary Wednesday. And yes, since we're being honest here, let's talk about sex, because I know some of us hear the word pleasure and assume it's code for sex, and some of us hear it and quietly hope it isn't code for sex. So here's my truth. I'm perimenopausal, and I'm also having the best sex of my life right now, in this body, at this weight, with these wrinkles, and at this age. And the woman standing at my kitchen bench 10 years ago, aching for some tenderness, could not have imagined where I am now. And I fully intend to keep having great sex and intimacy with my man. And I'm not handing that over to some tired, bloody story about aging and perimenopause. The more great sex you have, the more you want it. And even if it's solo time, go for it. But I'll be real. Yes, of course, there's the practical side, and our bodies are changing, and we might be grumpier, and we're struggling with our hormones, and we overheat, and all the things, right? And maybe your libido's down and you don't want sex anymore, but it doesn't mean you can't experience pleasure. And I'm on HRT, and I'm also using vaginal estrogen cream as part of my routine. And I don't give any medical advice, but, if your body isn't feeling great, maybe chat to your doctor about HRT. It's not for everyone, but, there's a lot of stuff online now debunking the original women's health study that said it was dangerous. I've definitely noticed a big change being on HRT, and I'm only newly doing vaginal estrogen, but I do know it can help with anyone who's got UTIs and other stuff. I'm actually dealing with a prolapse, so I'm shoring up the tissue with the estrogen. But we do need to take care of our physical bodies. Anyway, moving on. I just want you to hear that the belief piece comes first. So, before any cream, I had to decide that my desire wasn't finished. And our culture will happily tell us that desire ends at menopause or even in perimenopause or after children. And it's a bloody lie, I tell you. For so many of us, this is where it finally begins. Because for the first time in our lives, it's actually ours. Not for anyone's approval, not for anyone's schedule, ours. And I say it a lot, we can be juicy at any age. And I consider myself a very ripe, juicy peach. And I'm pretty sure my partner agrees. And if you're over on Substack, you'll see I've got a very juicy peach there that's a little bit evocative. And I think we're quite scared of women's vaginas and pictures of them, even if it's represented by fruit. But, we don't need to freak out. Vaginas are beautiful, people. And before I close, I just want to say directly to you, the woman who's tried it all, maybe you've done a pleasure reset, you've journaled, you've got the apps, you've done the retreat and the meditation. And if you didn't feel much and quietly concluded that you're the problem and that you're broken somehow, you're not failing. You were right. Your instinct that none of it was touching the real thing was correct, because the real thing was never on the surface where those tools operate. It was a decision made decades ago by that beautiful little girl inside of you that's trying to protect herself and keep herself in the only way she knew how at the time. And there's also that whisper inside of us that you're right about too, that greyness is not the truth of who we are. It's just the light dimmed down. So if you're having one of those moments like I had, standing in my kitchen, just longing for that tenderness, to feel alive and to not be living in the grey zone, just know that we're never ever meant to settle for this dimmed switch. We can stop trying harder now. Trying harder was not the medicine. Permission is. So you have permission now to embrace your pleasure. And you could make it a value like mine. I love pleasure, and I'm not ashamed to own that. And if you're listening to this and it resonates with you, and you've got friends that it might resonate with, please feel free to share this with them. I think this is a conversation that we as women, especially midlife women, need to keep having. And if you're not already following me on Substack, please go and look at my Fully Expressed on Substack. I would love to get to know you. You can comment and share your experiences of pleasure in the comments. And just one more thing I wanted to share was that I don't speak about it on the show very often. Well, I don't think I've ever done it, but I mentor a small number of women one-to-one in living a fully expressed life. And it's deeply personal work. It's not something I can do in a group, even though I've run group programs for over a decade. But it's really working with your voice, your body, your beliefs, your soul's work, and how to bring it out into the world in the most powerful way that you can. So it's all the belief work, and I use various tools for that, but it's also then how are you going to express your life's work in the world? So I love doing that. So if that interests you, please reach out, and we can have a chat and see if there's a good option of working together. I've also written a song called The Pleasure Switch and produced it with AI, and it's really fun. And my invitation is to listen to this song with your whole body, not just your ears, and actually move your body to the beat and really be present and enjoy the sensation of moving your body. I have found this to be the best way to tap back into joy. So I'm going to add that to the end of this podcast so you can listen to it as well. So here's to living fully expressed in all our juiciness, to feeling alive, to feeling pleasure in our bodies and our souls. Much love, and have a fabulous, pleasurable day.
Somewhere along the way, I learned to turn the light down. A little less laughter, a little less sound, until one more